Welcome back to Joy of the Hang. I'm your host, Sharon Stevenson, and there's a moment that most of us have experienced. You walk into the right room, meet the right people, have meaningful conversations, and then somehow nothing happens after that. Today's guest is here to change all that. Coreena Breazeale is the founder of The Collective and Revive Connects, two powerful platforms designed to help women not only connect, but convert those connections into real opportunities, align growth and meaningful leadership. Because here's what she's noticed. Women are showing up. They're getting into the right rooms. They're having the conversations, but they're still leaving without actually moving anything forward. Not because they lack capability, but because no one ever taught them what to do once they're in the room. Coreena's work lives in that gap, helping women shift how they show up, how they communicate, and how they follow through. So connection becomes momentum of that. This conversation is about intention, presence, and what it really takes to turn proximity into progress. Coreena, welcome to Joy to Hang.
Thank you so much for having me.
I am so excited. You know I'm passionate about connection. So I already feel like we're in alignment.
Absolutely.
And I can't wait to hear. So did you start both of these, The Collective and Revive Connects?
I did.
And why? Okay, so why? Tell me why.
Well, actually, a little bit about my background. I was a dog trainer for 10 years.
A dog trainer?
A dog trainer.
Okay.
Well, yes. And I retired as of October, but that's the same time that I started officially The Collective and Revive Connects.
Okay.
So it was a kind of a rebirth in a way.
Why start two similar companies at the same time?
Well, The Collective has actually technically started back in January of last year.
Okay.
And so January of last year, it's actually my second women's group that I have co-founded or founded. And it is a space that I needed and a space that I learned that a lot of other women also needed. So it's not necessarily something specific to entrepreneurship. There are a lot of entrepreneurs that are in the group, but we just need a space to be ourselves and a space to grow and learn together and be connected. And that's what The Collective offers. Revive Connects was actually a product of my experience within dog training, because a lot of service-based industries, when it comes to the software and the tech side of things, you're kind of taking different products, different subscriptions, and plugging them into one. And so it's really hard because the only thing that is keeping those things together is your brain. I like to think of it like my brain's duct taped a system together, and the only thing that makes a system run is my brain. Whereas I was able to find a system that takes all of those pieces and plugs it into one platform that works together through automation and AI. So it's and then I was able to turn that into even something bigger by pulling in marketing. So my business partner is a marketing creative director. And so she's able to come in with the marketing side, and I'm able to come in with the system side. And so we can build essentially an ecosystem for a business that is able to run itself if you want it to. It's completely customizable. And so it's taken that duct tape system and made it so that the business owner frees up their time, and you get to the point like, oh my gosh, like I have all of this free time now. Like, what do I do? And so that you can spend time building what's next.
So how did you find that there was a need for that?
Through listening to, through the dog training, yes, because I was on an international nonprofit for that within that industry. There's not a whole lot of resources when it comes to business within that industry. And then also being in the women's space, I noticed that there are a lot of resources for specific types of industries, but across all of them, the resources when it comes to software and tech is very broken, to where it's like a hit or miss. Like you can try this, but a lot of people jump around. And so my brain works in pattern recognition. So if I'm sitting here and I'm listening to conversation after conversation and the pain points are the same across all industries, it's like, okay, well, I get to be one of those people that gets to sit here and listen to the problems that are happening across industries, where not a lot of people get that because they're in their space and they've got their niche and they've surrounded themselves around with people that are within that space too. And so I get to be the lucky person that's like, oh, well, I'm seeing a lot of gaps between these different industries and these conversations that are happening. And for the most part, these business owners, and that's kind of where The Collective and Revive Connects is working together. It's where here's a space of resources. Here's a space of a lot of different resources, not just within tech. There's finance, there's legal. Like there's so many different elements to business, right? And so being able to bring those together, but offer the assistance that's needed when you're at the place where it's like, okay, now what? And so being able to lean into that, the women from the collective can ask those questions. And then if I can help, then great. If I can introduce them to somebody that can help, then great. It's all about plugging them in and helping them get the resources that they need for that next step.
That's amazing. So is the collective a national organization that you joined, or is it something you started locally
It's something I started locally.
from grassroots?
Yes.
And
Yes.
so how did you start it? Tell other women if they're looking for a space where they need to feel connected, how did you get started? Would you just send out a mass email or do a Facebook ad and say, hey, we're all meeting at this coffee shop on Friday at
Yes.
8, something
Yes.
simple? Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually, somebody that was local to
Okay.
Sarasota. So I had resigned from the previous group that I had co-founded, which is a big, beautiful nonprofit. It's called the Tampa Bay Women's Professional Network.
Yep.
It's a big, beautiful nonprofit. They're still doing amazing things. They're doing seed grants for startups. And when I moved down to this area from living in St. Pete, I resigned and I was just like, man, okay, I'm going to find another group and it's not going to be so much work this time because it's not going to be me doing it. I went and visited some of these other like networking and community types of meetings and I'm like, man, like this is just not what I'm looking for. And so I spent a year looking for this particular type of community where you can be open and you can ask the questions. And if you need to be vulnerable, then it's safe to do so. But also being around people that have big ideas and that accept your big ideas. So I had been talking to somebody that's local to the area and we were like, this doesn't exist. I'm like, I know how to start it. I know how to do it. But the question is, do I want to? Because it is a lot of work. The level of consistency that you have to have when you're doing something on that scale, it's a full-time job in itself. And so I was like, okay, we can start this, but we're going to do it right the first time. I had my learning curve with the first group. We didn't have infrastructure on the first group, and we're still able to grow it to 12,000, which I think is incredible.
That is incredible. 12,000. It's a big
This
number.
time going into it and having a website and having that back end, because now I have the systems part of what I do, and being able to build out the automations that we need to be successful and build out just the steps of, okay, well, what is this community? How can I learn about it? What do I do once I'm there? And having those questions answered right away. But of course, those were all things that we achieved as the collective grew. But I mean, no, it started out as 5 of us met up at Foxtail over at UTC and we put it on repetition. And those of you that are looking to host something yourselves, routine, that is number one. Consistency and routine. Those are the two most important things when it comes to hosting anything, is if they can put it on their schedule and they can count on it every single week, they will show up. So that's how it started. And
so I've got so many questions. But here's my first one. My first one is, you mentioned what you were looking for didn't exist. So you decided, what was missing?
what was missing? I wanted to be in a room, and actually somebody said this the other day at coffee. We have a Venice chapter now. She said this was her first interaction with the group, the first time she sat in our chairs. And she said, this is the first time I've ever sat in a room where I feel like what I'm about to say is going to be understood. And I was like, there it is. That is exactly, if I were to bottle it up into one sentence, it is a group of people that knows what it's like to kind of be the outcast and not be understood. And maybe your family doesn't understand what you're going through or what big things that you're building towards. And you get a lot of questions on the outside, but you step into our space and it is a space where it's like, oh, you have this idea. That's incredible. You want to go national with it? Yeah, let's go. Also, I've got 6 people that you need to meet. Like, that's the type of space that I want to be in. And I'm learning that a lot of other women want to be in too.
So it's collaborative, it's supportive.
Yes.
I love that. It's encouraging.
Our motto is collaboration over competition. We can all be, I mean, there's 12 realtors in any of our coffee meetings a lot of times, but each of them specialize in something different. Each of them have a different audience. And so once they learn that you have a different audience than I do, there's the opportunity that if somebody comes in and they're not my audience and maybe I can't help them because I'm not in that particular area, and you are, or
Yeah.
you're more plugged in a certain spot and you can help them better, that we can actually go back and forth and help people together.
Right, and do referrals, right? I mean,
Exactly.
yeah, exactly. Well, I love that because I was a member of BNI, Business Network
Yes.
International, back home. They could only have, it was industry specific.
Right.
So only one realtor, one banker, one whatever.
Mhm.
So this is interesting. So you allow several,
Yes.
doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. And I was in BNI as well. And it promotes competition, right? Like they give you that print off where everybody's in their ranking
Right.
as far as how they're doing within their system. And it's like, this is a full-time job in itself. It's great. It works for a lot of people, and a lot of people find success based on their systems. But I want to come into this space and I want to feel like I'm empowered and I get to, like, what's next, you know?
Yeah.
So this is much different. I call it more of a relationship based networking over the transactional, here's my business card type of networking.
But it is women's only
It is women's only.
for now. And now you said you started a year ago and you have 5 chapters?
We have 5 chapters.
So those 5 girls sitting around Foxtail Coffee turn this into currently 5 chapters, but more to come
Yes.
probably. So
Yes.
do you pay if somebody wants to start their own chapter? Are you starting it like a franchise or?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
So the first year was all about establishing the culture for the first chapter. So we have Lakewood Ranch, Sarasota is where we're at for the first chapter. This second year, I agreed to launch these other chapters. So we're in Venice, Parrish, Riverview, and St. Pete. And so all of these 4 chapters have their own teams of chapter directors. And so the chapter directors are going out and bringing women into the space, and they host either biweekly or weekly, depending on what their schedule has allowed. And they're on an affiliate, basically like an affiliate type of offer for right now because it's still small. It is membership. We do have a membership. For the year, it's $297, and it's all about just coming in and being around these people that know what it's like to do all of the things. And a lot of us are moms, and a lot of us have a lot of hats. I joke about carrying around a coat rack, and as I
switch your hat.
yes,
Yeah.
throughout the day I put on different hats.
I say that all the time. We are playing many roles
Exactly.
in our lives, especially as women, right?
Yes.
One day we're mom, the next day we're a business leader, sometimes both at the same time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Come 3:30, they know that I'm in mom mode, and that I'll get back to them after 8 o'clock.
No, I love that. And that's so important to structure your life that way. Cause when I was a single mom, I owned a restaurant, and same thing. I had I shared custody with my ex-husband. So every other week I would have my kids. And on the weeks that I had my kids, when I started the restaurant, I said, you know what? I started this restaurant so that I could be there for them when they got off the bus. So like you said, at 3 o'clock was like, unless it's an emergency, I'm trusting that you can handle this.
Yes.
By yourselves. And then on the weeks that I didn't have my children, then I was there.
Right.
Not right. I never left. But I'm like, you will have 100% of my attention every other week.
Yeah.
But then you're going to share my attention with my children because that was my priority. But yeah, so that's great that you can structure it that way. So you say you have an idea that says the room is only the beginning. What does that mean to you?
Well, when it comes to, it can be networking, it can be, you go out to lunch with a group of people that you just recently met, but the room, it has the potential to change the trajectory of somebody's life. It's what rooms are you stepping in, and what are you doing once you're in that space, right? And so I've generalized the term to rooms because it is all about the space that you're stepping into. I mean, there's all different types of ways to get connected within the community, whether you're coming in and you're doing it socially and you're wanting to, join one of these sports leagues, the adult sports leagues. If you're not going to take the time to get to know the people around you and you're just playing the sports, then all you're going to benefit from that is the exercise. But if you take the time and you ask questions and you truly care about the person that you're standing next to, or you're in a room and you're networking at one of the, let's say like a speed networking event or something like that, where it's a lot faster paced, and it is a little bit more transactional. It is something that if you go into it with the right mindset that I want to leave this with some sort of outcome, whether it's let's go for lunch or let's go get coffee in the next couple weeks, or just leaving that space that you connected with somebody because you put the effort in, it's not just going to come to you. And I think that that's something that is almost an expectation where it's, oh, well, I did the networking, I did the thing, I checked the box, and now the leads are still not coming, or the friendships are still not coming, or, whatever it is that hope or that expectation was, you have to put the effort in for that outcome to happen.
Yeah, and I like this, and I want to break this down even further for our listeners, because I think if we can come up with a scenario, and I'm going to give you one because I've been there myself, and I consider myself fairly confident. But you go into a room of strangers and you walk in, and maybe you have an intention to meet someone new, but then your insecurity pops up, right?
Mhm.
Or you're feeling extra shy that day or whatever it is. Maybe you just don't, you look around and you're like, oh my gosh, I just don't belong here,
Yeah.
right? So walk us through the steps of how to overcome those feelings of self-doubt, maybe how to actually approach somebody for the first time. Walk us through those steps. How would you,
Okay.
so let's pretend we're at a gala, you're walking in for the first time. Before you even go, how should you get your mindset correctly in setting an intention?
Yes. So I've struggled with this for most of my professional life, where it is up until probably the last year, honestly, where walking into a room and it's imposter syndrome, right?
Mm.
Where it's like, what am I doing? Who am I? I don't belong here. Like, why am I in this space? Like this isn't me, you know? But something that really helped me was, okay, if I'm going to make the most of this time that I'm about to spend in this space, one, what do I want? Why am I here? Right? And two, who am I going to be to make the most of this space? If I walk in and I'm kind of reserved and kind of a fly on the wall and my body language is closed and like I don't appear to be open to talking to somebody, then why am I walking into this space? I am a behavior nerd. I love it. Psychology, I have degrees in psychology. I love it. And that's one of the reasons why I was in dog training is because I love psychology, dogs and humans. It goes together. It's across species, right? And as a dog trainer, you have to know psychology to be able to help the human side of the leash. The human side of the leash determines everything, right? And so one of the things that I get to take from my experience there and moving into what is now just human psychology and behavior is your body language and the way that you present yourself. It influences the perception of other people, but it also is influencing the perception of yourself, right? If you're not walking in and your shoulders aren't held high and you're not forward with yourself and moving into a room where it's like, I want to be received here. I want people to feel like they can approach me. I want to walk into this space and know that I'm going to be seen, right? I'm not going to walk into this space and be shy. I want to walk into this space and with confidence, even if I'm pretending. You can pretend, you can wear confidence like it's a coat, right? If you lean into that body language and you present yourself in a way that's like, I might be going crazy up here and not knowing if I belong here, but on the outside, I look like I do.
It looks like I got my shit together.
Exactly.
But not so much. Yeah.
But at the same time, your body language is in the way that you're holding yourself directly influences your thought process, right? So if I'm walking in and I look like I have confidence and people are receiving me like I have confidence, I immediately switch off that mindset of, oh, I don't belong here. Look, I do belong here now. I've got a bunch of people that are talking to me
Yeah.
and that are standing shoulder to shoulder with me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That imposter syndrome's a big one, though. I have a friend who's very much into Tony Robbins, and she said, anytime you're feeling that way, get in the mirror and do a Superman pose.
yes,
Right? Have you heard of the Superman
yes,
pose? And just get yourself in that space before you walk into a room.
yes,
Like,
which I recently learned was invented by a woman.
oh,
The
really?
Superman pose, yes.
Yeah.
I don't remember who it was. I need to go back and look.
And the Superman pose is kind of like what you were talking about for those who can't see us. You're standing up straight, you're putting your shoulders back,
Mhm.
right? And you're acting like nothing's going to hurt me, right? I'm
Yes,
in charge, I'm a hero, all that stuff. So, but
exactly.
yeah, I mean, I've done the same throughout my whole life is that imposter syndrome. Even now, sometimes you walk into a room and you're like, oh gosh, I don't know anybody and now I have to put myself out there. It's a very vulnerable place to be.
Yes, especially at something like a gala if you don't know anyone because everybody's dressed
Yeah.
so beautifully and you're just standing there like, "Oh my goodness, like,
Yeah.
who do I even talk to?" Like, all
Where
of
do
a
I
sudden,
start?
I'm terrified.
Yeah, it can be terrifying. So, what were you seeing in your own experience that made you realize this was such a big gap for women that you needed to create a place for them to connect?
I was getting a lot this was outside of our space. I would talk to people about networking and they would say things like, "Oh, well, I got burnt out of networking," or "It didn't work for me," or just leaning into community in a way that is very transactional and expecting something, right? And when I was learning more about marketing and the different approaches for that, even now with a marketing agency, I'm like, word of mouth is king. Word of mouth is reoccurring. Word of mouth is an investment of time. It's not an investment of money. But when somebody sees what you do and who you are, and they're willing to go out and talk about you and tell other people, it like one, they're putting their reputation out there
Right.
on your behalf. And so if people are sitting there and they're talking and sharing about the things that you're doing, that is worth its weight in gold to me versus paid marketing or social media and that sort of thing. I love the in person. I love struggle with surface level conversations. I struggle with small talk. I want to know like why do you do what you do? Like why are you so passionate about this?
Yeah.
And that's one of the things about the collective that I love is I get to see whether somebody's doing something because it pays the bills, but then I ask, well, what do you love to do? What is it that your job that pays the bills allows you to do? And getting to see that passion come out in them, and I love it, and it's exciting, and I end up learning a lot when you start talking to people about their passions because they're excited to share. They want to educate, and I love that.
Yeah, I do too. I love that about what I do too. So, but let's go back to that room. You're in the room. Why do you think so many people leave great rooms and feel so stuck afterwards? So they've gone in, maybe they've overcome their confidence, they've talked to a few people, and then they get in their car and they're like, damn it, why didn't I get that person's business card? Or why didn't I go say, what a great speech? Or, you know what I mean? Like, why do we do that? Why don't we put ourselves out there?
I think fear has a lot to do with our decisions and whether we make them or not, right? Where, well, what if she doesn't want to talk to me? Or what if he doesn't want to talk to me?
Yeah.
Or that fear of rejection, where it's, well, I'm going to put myself out there and maybe they won't even like acknowledge me or maybe they don't want to give me their number. But usually if they're in a space like that, they're more than willing to share. And what I've learned is more often than not, if you ask somebody for help, they generally want to help you. They will go out of their way to assist. And so, I think that getting past that fear and leaning into it, that's something that I've done in the last year is there might be a decision that was really scary. And I mean, closing my business and starting two new businesses, that was terrifying,
Yeah.
But at the same time, I knew that there was something that's big on the other side of what this fear was preventing me from doing and what, my mind was protecting me from, right? Quote unquote protecting. And just do it. Have a little audacity and do the scary thing. And we talk about it in the collective all the time is do the scary thing. We were talking about it this morning about speaking on stage. I am not a public speaker.
That's a good
I've
one.
never been a public speaker, but I've had to embrace that for this movement or whatever it is that we're building with through the collective, I need to find my voice. And so not being reserved and not being somebody that's a fly on the wall because I've 1000% always been the type of person that is more than happy to put somebody else in the spotlight and celebrate them and show how awesome they are, but also be behind the scenes and being content with that. So,
Yeah. So now you have to shine in your
yes.
own light
Yes,
and you're like,
and
this doesn't feel
right, and being the
good."
example has been an experience where there is a lot of imposter syndrome. It's like, well, why me? Like why? But somebody's got to, and people are receiving it. And so I think when it comes down to how to make sure that you are making the most of the time spent in these different rooms, in these different spaces, is ask the question. Don't be afraid. Just do it, right? Like Nike says, just do it.
Just do it.
And sometimes you might strike out, and that's okay. Sometimes it might not always go the way that you want it to, but a lot of times it does. And so just do it. If you end up going to the car and you're like, man, I really wish I got that person's information, get out of the car and go get it, or look them up on Facebook, or look them up online. Or if you saw somebody else talking to them and you know that person, hey, did you get that person's information? And a lot of times these different groups, they will keep the information of the people that attend.
Yeah.
So you can always reach out to the host as well and say, hey, who is that person? I need their information if you can share that. Or ask them if they would be interested in sharing the information. But there's always a way.
All great tips. What do you find are the most common mistakes women make once they're in the room? What's the most common mistakes they make besides not presenting themselves, maybe?
Questions. The questions that they're
Oh,
asking.
they're asking the wrong question.
They're asking the wrong questions.
Oh, I like this one. Okay.
Because
Give me an example of that.
well, if they come up to you and they say, what do you do? It's very easy to give a very quick answer. But if they come up to you and they say something like, why do you do what you do? Or how did you get here? Or what are you working towards? What are you building? Those are a lot more open-ended questions, right? So if you go into these different conversations, and you can use the same like 3 to 5 questions on every person, just coming up with questions that are a little bit more open-ended, that pull back the curtain a little bit on who the person is, and you get to know who they are at their heart. You see a different side of people, and you also connect a lot faster. To whereas you ask the more one-word answer or one-word questions or yes or no questions, and then your conversation kind of falls flat. So definitely learning more about how to carry the conversation forward and bringing out more of the personal or almost vulnerable side of people definitely helps to get them to connect to where that conversation turns into something great.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you that question. Why do you do what you do?
Why do I do what I do? So my original answer to that question is I love to help people, right? I love to be a reason for somebody to take that next step in their journey, to just be like a stepping stone, right? And that was one of the things that in the Coast Guard, I was prior Coast Guard. I was search and rescue and law enforcement. I loved it because I helped people, right? There's a thread through my life. When I was in high school, I was in yearbook and newspaper. I got to highlight and feature all of these really awesome students that were doing great things, right? I was a photographer. Like I got to do all of these really awesome things. But again, going back to helping people. So now fast forward, I leave the Coast Guard. I find dog training. I actually find service dog training, which led into obedience training. Again, I just like to help people. And so one thing led to another, finding the women's groups and the spaces that I've helped to build. At the end of the day, I have always had a hard time when it comes to businesses finding resources that I need. And what are the boxes I need to check to make sure that my business is secure, to make sure that my business is taken care of? If something happens to me, it took me 2 years to learn what an operating agreement was for my business, right? And that was because I was friends with an attorney that specialized in business. Why didn't no one tell me this? And so being able to be a resource to people and help. Through all of that, I've kind of reflected and realized that the way my brain works in ecosystems, right? It is, what is the big picture and how do we break it down to be able to deliver on the individual at the individual, right? And so through dog training, I built ecosystems where I was helping other their pet owners, yes, but also pet industry professionals. We're building ecosystems where at the end of all of it, the individual dog was the one that's being helped. The individual family was the one that's being helped. But now I get to do it on a much larger scale where moving into Revive Connects, I get to help build ecosystems for business owners and making sure that their business is taking care of them and that they're getting reinforcement from their business so that they don't have burnout, and being able to help with their marketing. And it's all one big umbrella. But with the collective, it's the same. It is being able to be the architect that builds something that is able to offer resources to people that really need it, don't know where to look, don't know who to ask, and just making it easier for them. So the 4 new chapters, they're typically between 10 to 20. Our main chapters are our headquarters where it all started. Lakewood Ranch, Sarasota, we are between like 30 to 70 depending on the day.
Wow.
And we meet there on Wednesdays at 9:30, which we chose that time on purpose because we wanted it to be more of like the entrepreneurs that were coming in the room and be able to help them when we first started. So 9:30 on a Wednesday, there's not very many people that are available. So it also was a way to help with attendance. But now we're at the point
Now
where
it's growing.
we're growing out of our coffee shops.
So where do you meet every Wednesday at 9:30?
We are at CU Boutique in Lakewood Ranch.
Boutique, okay, in Lakewood Ranch.
Yes, it's
Right.
right off of like
I
the
have to
main
come to one of
street.
your meetings. I haven't been.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, you do. This morning was great. We got to talk about what everybody's building and the challenges they're experiencing. And so it ended up being a little bit of a hive mind type of space where somebody would share what they're working on and the challenge that they're having. And then as the group listened, because we all have very similar brains when it comes to problem solving, and the women were sharing the different resources and different ideas to help the person that shared through their challenge.
So what's the format of the meeting? Do you have a topic that you know you're going to discuss every week, or how does it work?
I'm not going to lie, I get bored of repetition.
Okay, no repetition.
Repetition I struggle with just because I want it to be engaging. I don't want one of my long-term members that shows up to every meeting to be like, okay, I've heard this over and over again. Like, I don't want anybody to get bored, right? If I'm getting bored listening to 30-second pitches every single time, like, what can we do to have variety in our space? And so we do come in with different prompts and different activities. So today it was a smaller group, which I love. I love when we have the smaller group just because we have a much higher quality and deeper conversations. And we're able to do like we did today, where we share what we're experiencing. And as a collective, we got to share and help troubleshoot those different problems. But every last Wednesday of the month, we have a financial advisor comes in, and her name's Katie Hayes. She's out of Inglewood. She's fantastic. She is somebody that loves to educate around just all things finance. And so she actually has guest speakers come and talk with her. And so last month, so last week, I think, we had another financial advisor come in and she shared about EFT and mutual funds. And so we got to have a conversation where it's topics that, there are individuals that are experts within those spaces, but a lot of us, especially as women, we don't necessarily think to research this stuff or become educated on it. So having a space where it's like, here are these topics that are kind of out of the box or not talked about very much. Let's educate and then let's ask questions about it so that we're leaving this space and we're able to go and educate others on these different topics or be able to influence our own lives and our children and teach them about these things.
Yeah, finance is so important. I have a 24-year-old daughter, and I'm always telling her, as soon as you can start investing money in the stock market or whatever, do it. I don't care how much it is. It can be $100 a month, whatever it is.
Yes,
Start right away. The earlier, the better.
exactly.
Because you don't realize till you're my age that how that accumulates and you're not even thinking about it. And then at least you have some sense of security as you get older.
Yes,
But it's
especially
so important. And you're right to say
Yes.
that a lot of women they don't think financially because especially when I was younger, you always thought the man would take care of it, right?
Exactly.
My ex-husband was the worker. I stayed home, raised the kids for a little while while we were married. And so when you're relying on them for your financial security, you don't often take ownership of it.
Right.
So you don't know, anything about the stock market. So now I manage it myself. That is something that's so important for young women to understand and be
It
it. So I'm
is.
glad that you have that every month.
And I'm noticing that more often than not, the questions that are coming in, they're beautiful and they're well thought out. They just don't know. They don't know because a lot of them are in positions where their husbands have taken care of it or not, and so now they get to go home and they get to start asking those questions because now they're a little bit more educated than when they first walked in.
Yeah.
So education is a big part of the collective. We do a bi-weekly lunch and learn where we have a different member that comes in that's an expert in her industry. She speaks about whatever topic that she feels is going to be received the most and that she gets the most questions about. So like we had a financial advisor, we've had a mortgage broker, we've had different doctors come in. There's just so much that's out there that unless you're in front of the right person, you would never know.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. As far as health goes, there's a lot for women too to be aware of, and it changes all the time now. It's all peptides, so that I'm
Right?
trying to figure that all out now. I just started taking BPC 157. It's changed my life, but anyway, it's a whole other
Plug.
subject. Yeah, little plug for BPC 157. All right. So what's the difference between networking and what you teach?
I don't necessarily discount us from being a networking group. It is a networking group. It's just networking in a way that is a little bit different than the traditional, going in with the traditional mindset. We are conditioned to think that networking is about exchanging business cards. We are conditioned to think that networking, because of the structure of these bigger organizations and the way that they have built their systems, I'm noticing that a lot of women that are coming into our space from those spaces, they're sometimes a little bit put off, honestly, because they're like, well, what do you mean we're not, like, the leads aren't the thing that's talked about first? Like, wait, what do you mean I have to work to get the leads here? Like, they're coming in, they're just like, I don't really understand. And so once they sit and they listen and they realize, like, oh, this is a much bigger world, this is a much bigger concept, that the more that I lean in, the more that I learn, and the more people I get to be introduced to, it does take care of the people that step into this space and really lean in. But it is work. Building relationships with other people is not easy. It's not something that happens overnight. You might meet somebody and you're like, wow, I really love that conversation. I feel really connected with them. But you still have to go to lunch. You still have to go and take the time, right? There's a couple of women that just go above and beyond, and follow up is something that I thought about talking about a little while ago, but I think now's a good time to bring it up. Follow is so underused. If you don't follow up when you leave anything, right? Whether it's you went to a friend's birthday party and you started talking to somebody and you really enjoyed the conversation and now you have their number and now you're never going to text them, that was waste. Or you go to a networking event and you sit with the same person and you have really great conversation and you have their number, but then you don't text them, you're missing a huge opportunity to continue to lean into that connection and find out what's on the other side of it. And so follow up is just reaching out and saying, hey, let's go to lunch. And it's simple. It doesn't have to take very long. You don't have to sit there and text back and forth like you're on a dating app. Like, you don't have to do that at all.
I have to say, though, I'm guilty of that. I met a woman the other night and we enjoyed our conversation, and I don't carry business cards, but she had hers. So I took hers and I did not follow up, and I have to reach out still. And there was no barrier for me to not following up. I think for me, it's just, I don't love being on my phone. I do
Yes.
not love the texting world that we're in. And so the one-on-one face-to-face was awesome, but to then sit there and text and put the contact into my phone and, and everybody that knows me generally knows that, if there's a group text, I'm the one not responding. I'm just not. I'll follow if there's something important that I need to give a thumbs up on, I will, but I'm not going to be in the middle of a conversation. I'm just not. So to your point, I much more enjoy a deeper conversation with somebody. And so when I can sit one-on-one and really learn about the person across from me, that fills my cup. But to just do these general texting, but I still have to follow up. That was still good. That was still a good reminder that there's probably 3 or 4. I have another guest that wants to be on the show, and I swear I promised her 3 or 4 times, I'll text you. Okay, I have not done it. So
don't worry. I'm coming up with an idea.
I'm bad. You have an idea for me to fix
for
that?
follow up?
Okay.
Yes, because it's an ongoing pattern recognition. That's just the way my brain works.
Yeah.
Where he's like, I do the networking, but by the time I leave, I'm just tired, and then moved on to the next topic. And now it's 2 weeks later, and now I feel awkward reaching back to the person. We can fix this.
Okay.
We literally have systems. I have the systems that can fix this.
Oh, I love it.
To where it could literally just be something as simple as filling out a form. Like, here, can you just fill this out for me really quick? And then automatically text message, it was great to meet you. Thanks. Let's get lunch soon. And so the conversation already starts for you. You just need to follow up.
Oh, I like that. Okay, I'm signing up for your system. I need it in my life. I swear I do. All right, we kind of already touched on this, but let's get back to it. Let's talk about communication. What are women not saying or not asking that's holding them back?
I think a lot of those conversations are being held back by the fear of judgment,
It's a big one.
to where it's you walk into a space, and I experience a lot in the dog training world, is people are they hold on to their information so tight because if they share too much, it might expose them as to you don't know what you're talking about. And I think that there is a lot of that where it's like if I share and somebody in the room knows what I'm talking about, there might be a fear of, well, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, or that imposter syndrome comes in, or they're in a position to where it's like, I want to share, but what if I say the wrong thing? And it's just stepping outside of that and realizing that if you're being judged by somebody in the room, they're not your people anyways. Like they're not people that you need to surround yourself with to begin with. And the great thing about that, what I've learned is it's almost a filter, right? It is a filter.
Mm.
It will filter people away from you if they are not your people. If you are vulnerable and you share something that's on your heart or you share a struggle, most of the time that's going to bring the right people in because they're going to want to help. They're going to want to offer their assistance, or they're going to want to relate to you. And so when you're in the right rooms, or you're in the room, maybe you're not even in the right rooms, but you share and you say the thing that might be a little bit scary, the right people will walk up. And if they don't, okay, then that wasn't a room for me and I need to go find one that is.
Well, and I love what you said at the beginning of our conversation. You said you looked around for the right room. It didn't exist, so you created it.
Mhm.
And that's something that I've had to learn too, because I'm new to Sarasota like you. And for the longest time, you get in these friend groups and you're like, they're just not my people,
Mhm.
right? But I'm still hanging out with them, but they're not my people. And now I'm like, okay, well, if it doesn't exist, I need to create it and find
Yes.
my people, right? Because yeah, it's hard to find. So I have, I guess, a group of social friends, right? That your fun
Mhm.
friends. It's been difficult at this season of life to find meaningful, deep connection when you're starting over
Yes.
later in life. Because I talk in my own book about the different seasons and how when you're raising children, you tend to gravitate towards other parents,
Right.
right? Other people that are going through a similar situation in
Mhm.
life, right? You're raising your kids, this woman's raising their kids. You have a lot in common. So when you get to be older and your kids are gone and you're moving into a whole new environment, you're trying to find that common bond,
Right.
something common to connect on. And I found it much more difficult than earlier phases of my life. So it's been fascinating. But anyway, that's why you're right. You have to, and that's basically why I created the podcast, because I'm like, you know what? I crave deep conversation. And how am I going to make that happen?
Yes.
And I'm going to invite people in and we're going to talk. And now it's grown to this place where it's lovely because I have more people than I can handle, which is so great, isn't that? It's a good problem to have.
It absolutely is.
So, but the same, I love how you talk about imposter syndrome though, too, because at the beginning of this, I was like, who am I to be doing this?
Yeah.
Right? I'm not Noah Robbins. I want to be, but I'm not. Trust me with their stories. And I love that. Like, it's such an honor to be, and I'm sure you feel it too. It's such an honor to hold space for people to be vulnerable like that, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Which is so tell me, you must have like a success story or two from some of your members. Like, share with me how you've seen some people change after being a
Yes.
member of the collective.
Well, we call it the bubble.
The bubble.
The bubble.
Why the bubble? Okay, see, I'm already glad I asked the question. What's the bubble?
It is people show up into the space and they're coming in from their world, right? They're coming in where they've had their own experiences and they've got their perception of the way networking is, and sometimes you get a little bit of like another networking event. But then as they lean in, they're like, wait, this feels different. Wait, I've had people come in like, I need to protect this space. Like I need to make sure that what I'm doing, whatever we're doing moving forward is protected because this is something
Sacred.
that's sacred, right?
Yeah.
And which I love that. I think that's awesome.
Sacred space.
And what I notice is happening is women, because that's what I can speak on, they change when they're taken care of. They change when they're in a space that is safe, right? And so we get to have these opportunities to watch them do their glow up in real time.
Yeah.
And they'll come in and some of them they went and they bought a whole new wardrobe and they're like, no, I get to be me. Like I'm in this space to be authentically myself. And I couldn't be more happier. I mean, this morning, several of the women were raving about how this has changed their lives, and I'm just like, this is a space that is safe. It is a space where you get to be yourself, and you get to come in, ask a question that you feel like is a dumb question, which there's no such thing as a dumb question, by the way. If you have a question, I bet 12 other people also have the question. So always ask the question. And it's just incredible to watch them step into who they are and be accepted for who they are and not be judged. And I always say, start this out, and this might be a reason why there's not very much judgment in this space, because I always start out where it's like, this is a place of no judgment, and if somebody's going to judge, they're going to come and talk to me, and we're going to have a conversation.
I like that. I
So
like
we
that.
instill a little bit of fear. But I mean, that's a big thing when it comes to stepping away from like that cattiness that happens among women.
Yeah.
The cattiness happens, one, because they feel like there's a threat of resources. There's plenty of resources. There's plenty of us. There's plenty of things for us to share, right? And so the resources, the judgment, they think that somebody's going to be judging them. There was one more thing that I was going to mention. Preventing of the cattiness in the women's spaces is being accepted for who you are and feeling like you're being received in that space. And then the last one being communication, to where a lot of us have not been modeled, right? There's not a lot of modeling of what real great communication looks like. So instead we feel like, oh, well, we have to talk behind each other's backs. We have to go about this in a way that, oh, well, I need to grab these people and bring them over to my side so that we like alienate her, right? For whatever the reason was. It's like, no, if there's a problem, we're going to talk about it and we're going to get to a solution. If there's not a solution, then we go our separate ways. But at least we had that conversation that could have been found to be uncomfortable in the beginning, but we had it and we grew. And now our own communication is a little bit better because we had that conversation.
Okay, let's take that a step further too. So what does great communication look like? Say you're having a conflict with somebody. Other than talking about them behind their backs, how would you handle it? Give me an example of great
So
communication.
I actually, there was a conversation that I had that it could have gone wrong. It was actually somebody that I had talked to about getting into business with. We had talked about several different opportunities that we could have worked together on, but both of us being heart-led and passion-led, we realized through our conversations that for us to move forward, one of us would have had to compromise our own passions because our belief systems were different. But having that conversation, it could have stopped before we even got to the belief systems, where it's like, oh, this just isn't going to work. Like, I don't like something about you or whatever. You know what I mean? At some point during that conversation, it could have stopped and then it could have put a bad taste in someone's mouth. But we were able to continue to keep moving forward and find out that at the end of all of this, it doesn't really matter what we do. If we go into business together, we're going to have to compromise our belief system. And I just don't think that that's going to work. So you do what you do and I'm going to do what I do. And if there's ever an opportunity where we can work together on something, then we can.
So it ended amicably.
It did. It did. And there was a lot of growth that I had in that conversation where it was like, wow, I never pictured myself having a conversation like that. Like, holy moly, you know?
It's so hard. Conflict is so hard. I have a friend that I'm going through some conflict with, and it's so difficult to have the face-to-face, right? I mean, especially when maybe rumors have been spread or things have been said behind your back, and then to then confront it, it's difficult, especially at this point. It's like, it shouldn't be happening.
It is. But it's scary because you're like, I don't know what the outcome's going to be. There's a lot of fear built around this. And so as self-preservation, I'm just going to project, or I'm going to push away, or, you know, like that is something that happens a lot. And so
or go silent, or
exactly,
go dark. Yeah.
That's where a lot of like that cattiness comes into play. It is protection, it is survival. And so when it's addressed, whether the conversation ends up going in the direction that you wanted it to or not, most of the time you always feel better because the words came out and you weren't holding it in.
Yeah, because people want to be heard for sure. Now, why do you think it's more of a thing amongst women than men to be catty and to talk about each other and gossip and jealous and all that?
I feel like men are a lot more direct and women are not as direct. I mean, there are women out there that are direct. Don't get me wrong.
There are.
But men are a lot more logical in their decision-making
We're more
and we're
emotional.
we're more emotional, exactly. And so emotion runs a lot of our decision making, where men are like, well, I wouldn't get upset about that, so that's a dumb thing to be upset about. But we talked about it and talked about the options, and now we moved on.
Yeah, and it's done.
Yeah, shook hands and moved on with our lives.
Right.
Where women are like, "Oh, she said this thing and it hurt my feelings, and then it escalated because I spiraled," like, or whatever
Right.
the
Yeah.
outcome
I sent the
was.
bad text and
Yes,
now everybody's mad.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
But men are like, "I just take this at face value. This is what the sentence says. It's a text message. I don't think that's what they meant. Okay, here's my reply. Moving on with my life." It is just,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
two different ways that men and women operate. But a lot of it has to do with the way we were raised in high school. Those of us that went to high schools, it is something that we are not taught how to communicate. The rumors start, rumor mill or whatever they want to call it,
Yeah.
and it's reinforced and it's mean. There's a lot of, oh, well, I don't feel good about myself, and so I'm going to tear you down so that I feel better about myself because I know you feel lower than me. And so this is something that I've wanted to work through and figure out because I have a 6-year-old daughter and she's going to be going through this stuff. So if I can
Yeah.
take the time and educate myself so that I can take the time and educate her and make her life easier, because my high school experience was awful and I don't want her to, if there are things that I can do to help her, then that's what I'm going to do.
I'm sorry to hear that. So what was awful about it?
Just bullying and just people that you thought they were your friends and then they weren't, like people that were friends for years and then they would go and do things behind your back and
Trade the friendship.
yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
a lot of times it was over boys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It tends to
Right.
be.
It
Yeah.
was like there was a couple of them that ended up finding out that I had the crush, and so then they had the crush and then they ended up dating them, and so I was like, wow,
Yeah.
okay,
Thanks.
goodbye.
Thanks a lot.
Exactly.
It's probably all for the best, though.
Oh,
In
absolutely.
retrospect, that's the thing you
Yeah.
don't realize at the time. Like, you can have him. Go ahead. Good luck
Yes,
with that.
exactly.
So how can we as women, though, this is a tough question. How can we as women, as I'm listening to you, embrace our emotional side? Because that's who we are. How can we balance our emotional beings and relate to women in a more positive way?
What I
Does it
do.
make sense what I'm
Yes,
asking?
yes, no, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm like,
I can share what I do. I don't make decisions when I'm emotional. I also don't have conversations when I'm emotional. And so if that takes me a day or two or maybe a week to process those and then revisit, I'll let that person know. If it's a conversation, if it's about a conversation, like, hey, I'm not ready to have this conversation yet. Let's wait a little while and revisit. And most of the time they will honor that just because you had that little conversation saying, "Hey, I'm not ready for this yet." But the more open you are with your conversation, the communication that you're having with others, the more they respect you. A lot of times you end up learning that women that you surround yourself with are a lot more open to conversations than what we initially believe. So when you start to share vulnerable, the more vulnerable thought process that you're having, a lot of times they're having it too. And so if somebody starts, then you can start to have that conversation back and forth and really figure out, okay, well, what was the problem? What was the thing we were upset about? And get on the other side of it and then move forward.
I love that, the idea of the pause. The other thing I've learned too and realized about myself is that oftentimes if a woman or somebody, anybody, says something that upsets me, it's really not about them. It's something within me
Mm-hmm.
that I have to really stop and think, why is that triggering me? What's going on for me right now? What is this bringing up that I'm meant to work through?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's not usually an intention of meanness on other people's part.
Right.
Usually. So it's usually something like, okay, all right, is there something from my childhood that's being triggered right now or
Right.
what's going on? But to take that pause and step back, I've done the same thing where you just say, you know what, you're important to me. This is important. I need a minute or I
Yes.
need to can we have lunch next week and
Mhm.
discuss or something like that? Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a
absolutely.
great way to approach it. I love that. So, what's one powerful question someone can ask in a room that instantly changes the dynamic? I like that one. Instantly changes the dynamic.
My favorite question is always, why do you do what you do?
Why do you do what you do?
Because most of the time, especially with people coming out of this more like a transactional minded or conditioning that a lot of networking creates, it makes them pause and be like, wait, why do I do what I do? Why am I in this space? Like, why am I doing these things?
Yeah.
And once they have that pause, they're like, you know what? You might get an answer like, I don't know. I don't know why I do what I do. I think I need to sit on that question a little bit.
Yeah.
But what that does is it ends up stirring a little bit inside of them. It's like, why don't I realize why I do what I do? Why have I not reflected how I'm in this position? But when you're around individuals that are passionate, a lot of times they do know why they
Yeah.
do what they do,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And they're more than happy to talk about that.
I love that answer. And the other question I love is, how can I help?
Yes.
I love at the end of after that question, that's a great follow-up. And how can I help?
Yes.
Right? I love that. So how does a woman need to see herself differently in order to lead?
Think realizing that sometimes what you have in mind is bigger than what you have in mind, right?
Yeah.
Where it is, like for me personally, accepting that I am going to be the one with a microphone in my hand, accepting that I'm supposed to be the one that is in front of a whole bunch of eyeballs staring at me, right?
Like you were at the gala
at the
recently.
gala,
So I
yes,
want to ask about that.
that was my first time on stage like that. And it was
Wow.
my own event. It was
That was your idea to put yourself
yeah.
up there.
But being able to do it in real time and be that example for others where it's like, I'm doing this and I'm terrified and I have no idea if I'm doing the right thing, but we're doing it anyways and we're going to see what's on the other side of this.
Yeah.
And having the collective watching that, like I'm seeing a lot of women that are stepping into that for themselves. And it's incredible. It's really amazing to watch, to just kind of be almost a light on what it is that they're doing and influencing them in a way that, you know, if you feel fear, if you feel resistance about something, it's either not right or there's something incredible on the other side. And so figuring out and having that discernment to moving forward, in what way do we move forward? It's really cool.
So Coreena and the collective recently hosted a gala where they recognized several women in the Sarasota area that were making an impact in their field of profession, right?
Yes.
So tell me how that all came about and how did you select your women? What happened? Why was this gala important that you recognize people in a group like that?
What I notice is that there are women out there that are doing incredible things that don't get recognition, but they keep moving forward anyways, right? Being behavior nerd, there's something that is always
I'm going
important.
to coin that term, behavior nerd.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Reinforcement, right? Reinforcement is something that isn't talked about enough, but reinforcement is in everything. And the reinforcement is why things continue, right? Is if I'm not being reinforced by something in some way, then I'm not going to continue moving forward. So in what they're doing, each of them, and they're all doing different things. So we ended up awarding 10 of these women, one of them being you.
That's not why I brought this up.
I know.
Thank you.
That are just doing incredible things. And whether they're getting recognition for the things that they're doing or not, they continue to move forward and are doing it because they love it. And it's reinforcing to them in whatever way their lives have built around it. Because I mean, that group of 10 women is so different. I mean, we ended up having 30 nominations. And so picking just 10 was difficult because,
Yeah.
you know, it is, how do you decide? And so what we ended up doing was their impact. How many lives are they affecting? Trying to have the pool of 10 women, we wanted it to be diverse, right? We wanted it to be a group of people that represents a lot of different industries and a lot of different business structures, and even not, right? Because some of them worked in business for themselves. Some of them work for other organizations and that sort of thing. So just having a very diverse group of women that are continuing to do this, and a lot of them are doing it in a way that is very thankless, and being able to put them in front of others and share their stories and share the why behind what they do and the incredible impact that they're making. The whole idea of the event was to celebrate the people that are doing incredible things, but to also bring them together and introduce them to each other, and then see, you know, the friendships and the relationships and the partnerships or whatever that comes from it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. So now I get to go around and have lunch with each of the winners and hear more about their stories. And I get to tell the stories.
Oh,
So I'm excited about
that's
that.
awesome. That's awesome. And it was a great event and the energy there was great. So I hope you're going to do it again.
Yes.
Yeah. You had a room filled with remarkable men and women.
Yes.
Yeah, it was fantastic. So thank you for doing that.
We'll see what happens the next one.
There we go. Was there ever a moment where you walked into a room and didn't know how to navigate it?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
All the time.
And I learned, which this is backwards, then I feel like people look at me like, what? When I say this, I do better hosting events than attending events.
Amen. I feel the same way with the podcast. I'm much better interviewing you than the other way around.
And I struggle with the initial introductions. That's hard for me. Like, it's always been that way, where it's like, I'm Coreena, what's your name? Well, and
Yeah.
asking those more elaborating questions and then having to navigate wait, why do I do what I do? Helping people. I like coaching people through that, but when they don't expect it and you're in somebody else's room, you're in somebody else's space, it can be off-putting, right? And being able to host the ice is already broken. They walk into the room and generally they already know my name at least, which is very helpful. And then 2, I get to help with the energy of the space. I get to help with what are we talking about today? Like navigating the energy from beginning to end and being able to influence a room that you walk in and there's a good possibility something's going to change for you. I love that. And it makes it fun for me. I mean, walking into a space and feeling out of place, that still can happen for me if depending on the space that I walk into, for sure.
Yeah. But you're controlling the spaces now. So
Right.
it makes it a little
Right.
easier.
Well, that and
Yeah.
on top of it, it makes it hard to summarize what I do into 30 seconds. So the 30-second pitch, I'm like, I do things.
The elevator pitch. I know. The elevator. I'm like, oh,
I'm Coreena. I host events.
Yeah, I know. I've got to work on that too. ChatGPT has not been very helpful.
No, he elaborates way too much.
Way too much. It's like, that's too long.
I said 30 seconds.
People have tuned out in the first 5 seconds. All right, Coreena, I'd love to close with something I call the turning point. Just one sentence for each. Fill in the blank. The moment connection becomes opportunity.
Is when you realize that the person you're talking to has a big, beautiful life and you get the opportunity to learn about that.
Amen. The most powerful thing a woman can bring into any room is
yourself. Being authentically yourself and accepting that who you are is okay, and you should always go into that space with that mindset and that you are nothing less than amazing.
the biggest mistake to avoid after a great conversation is
not following up. Follow up.
Follow up, please. I swear that was directed at me because I really need to do better at that. Real leadership feels like
being authentically yourself, of course, and being okay with vulnerability.
Right now, women need to give themselves permission to
lean into the fear. Lean into the fear of whatever you've been nervous or contemplating or, whatever it is that it's like, man, I just need to do that one thing because that one thing is going to be the thing that changes everything. Just do it. Just lean in and see what's on the other side because I know it's going to be great.
I love that. Coreena, this was such a powerful reminder that connection alone isn't enough. It's what we do with it that changes everything. I love this idea that the room is just the beginning because it puts the power back where it belongs in how we show up, how we communicate, and how we follow through. Thank you for the work you're doing to help women not just be seen, but to actually move forward. To the listener, if this conversation spoke to you, don't just sit with it, act on it. Reach out to someone, follow up on that conversation, step into the next room differently. And if you haven't already, be sure to follow Joy of the Hang on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube so you don't miss what's next. Until next time, stay present, stay intentional, and don't underestimate the power of what happens after the conversation. Take care of yourself and make one meaningful connection this week. Coreena, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.